I want our focus today to be about making performance management more fair. And I think an interesting place to start is how would you define that fairness in the context of performance management?
Yeah, so let's start with there's three pieces, right? There's the work that you ask somebody to do up front. There's the coaching you give them and feedback you provide while they're doing their work. And then there's sort of the formal assessment that you do of the work that they've done. And so fairness kind of comes into play at all three of these points, starting with, are you aligning the right work to the right people? So if a manager is great, they set this up so that both the work succeeds and the people grow. But we know that not everybody gets equal access to the growth opportunities. Not every manager is so thoughtful and intentional about aligning for skills and development areas. So that's one place things can go wrong. The second place things go wrong, which I think is the most common, is that people don't have a dialogue as they're doing the work to know what they can be doing better. And we know that this is really likely to go wrong when the manager and the employee have a different identity. So if you have managers and employees who have different genders or different races, there is much less likely to be specific and actionable coaching along the way, which of course means that employee is less likely to be successful. And then you get to the third part, that formal assessment. If those first two things haven't been set up correctly, you end up with people who haven't been assigned the right work clearly and haven't gotten feedback along the way, failing when it comes to formal assessments. And then, of course, they feel really poorly treated because they have been. And so I think fairness sort of infuses at all three parts of that spectrum.
That's really fascinating. My whole next quarter all my newsletters are going to be about setting expectations and catching up on goals, all because I see this happen in real time all the time, where it's a job isn't properly scoped. No one knows how to set expectations well. And then everyone's freaked out on how to give feedback on these expectations that they never set correctly. And so it's kind of a vicious cycle. And then we get to the end with performance management. And I have been in that situation where I have felt like my performance is like not fairly judged. And I feel like anyone listening has probably had that moment in a performance review where they think to themselves, like, well, I don't really agree with this.
I agree. One of the things that I started doing a couple of years ago, I started doing it with new employees, and then I started following it through for people I had more experience with as well, or people who were more highly tenured. Just simple one-page documents that set out, here's the baseline expectation for your role. So if you do this, good. Here's what great would look like in your role. So above and beyond baseline expectations, you're starting to think about things like promotions. This is what great would look like. And then just one or two areas to watch out for based on what I've observed about your performance. And then we look at this document together every month. Now, the expectations usually don't change every month, but the what to watch out for can. And it gives people something concrete that they can use as a reference point for conversations. It's so easy to do, and almost no one does it.
Yeah, I was going to say, we at Work Week, we do like in a bi-monthly, I always mix up all of them. Honestly, but I have any terminology together, I always mix that up. But we do every 2 weeks feedback Fridays, where the employee gets feedback on 3 questions. The manager also gets feedback on 3 questions, so that they're giving each other two-way feedback.
That's great.
I found that to be, we're just like starting it. So I want people to get in the habit before we go to this like official performance review. I have this big gripe with official performance reviews because I just feel like there's so much wrong with them when they're intertwined with compensation. And then it's like performance and compensation become intertwined and people think I have to behave a certain way to achieve this performance.